common goal in mind. So there were two main goals of the National Open Research Forum, or NORF. The first was to develop and propose national actions to address the challenges of changing the Irish research system to strengthen or better support open research practices. And then the second is to oversee and guide implementation of the National Action Plan for Open Research within the context of Impact 2030. So Impact 2030 was published a couple of years ago in Ireland. It's Ireland's governmental strategy around research and innovation. So it's very important that the work that we do directly aligns with the government strategy. So to oversee and guide the implementation of the National Action Plan in line and in the context of Impact 2030. So initially, a number of working groups were set up within NORF. So open access to publications, enabling fair research, looking at infrastructures for storing, sharing, and preserving research, skills and competencies that are needed around this, and obviously looking at incentives and rewards and how we can both incentivize and then reward researchers for adopting open research practices. So I was involved with the FAIR Research Data Working Group, and membership came from a really wide range of people. So again, we had the funders represented, we had researchers represented. I was working in libraries at the time, so we had a lot of people from libraries on the working groups, and it was great to get everybody together with this kind of common goal. So to date, a number of publications have come out of NORF. In 2019, we had the National Framework on the Transition to an Open Research Environment. So this was the document that first initially looked at those 5 different areas in which we would need to focus on. The working groups worked together on producing the National Open Research Landscape Report that was published in 2021. It's a really, really long document, but it gave a really good snapshot of where Ireland was at that point in time in relation to open research and fair data. And out of that, a number of gaps were identified. And so the working groups then looked at creating a series of policy briefs to address the gaps that were identified in the landscape report. So to evaluate why the gaps were there and then to propose solutions for those. So they're quite short documents, 3 or 4 pages each, which are really just meant to kind of grab people's attention. So both of these documents were, and all the work that had happened in between those two, were brought together. I think some of you will know Daniel Bangert, who is now working at 4TU Research Data. So at the time, he was our National Open Research Coordinator. So Daniel pulled together all of the work that we had done and put together a national action plan for open research with really, really concrete goals as to what we wanted to achieve by 2030. And you'll see that we're also aligning with the governmental research strategy in terms of the timeline. So we're both working towards a goal of 2030 at the moment. So within the National Action Plan, there were 3 key themes that were established, and I've linked to the DOI there. So if anybody is interested in having a look at the National Action Plan, all of these reports are easily able, you'll find them online. The first theme was enabling a culture of open research. The second was achieving 100% open access to research publications. So that's by 2030, that's our goal. And then the third theme, which is what I'm going to focus most on, is enabling fair research data and other outputs. So I'm not going to ask you to read this entire slide, but just to pull out a couple of phrases from it. So this is the vision for 2030 that was established in the National Action Plan. So we want to have a mature ecosystem of infrastructures. So by 2030, there should be a mature ecosystem of infrastructures. We also recognize that we very much need to look at how we are rewarding and assessing research assessment and evaluation, but that needs to change within the Irish landscape. And we are also recognizing that we need a team of data stewards nationally and embedded data stewards across the national landscape to support researchers in making their data as fair as possible. The National Action Plan pulls out multiple different actions across all of those three themes that I mentioned, but I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to really focus on the enabling fair research data and other outputs. So there were another number of actions identified through the work of the landscape report and those policy briefs that I mentioned. And you'll see that there is a kind of a thread that goes through looking at the very broad landscape, looking at the gaps, looking at how we can close those gaps. And then next steps in this area. So the action 5.1 was to support the development and professionalization of research data stewards nationally. 5.2, we recognized that we needed some national services for storing, managing, sharing, and preserving research data. 5.3 was looking to align policies for the management and sharing of research data and other outputs. 5.4 to contribute to a research infrastructure road mapping strategy. And action 5.5 then was to strengthen connections to international infrastructures supporting open research, such as EOSC that Ingrid mentioned. So at HEANet, we are the national mandated organization for EOSC. So this is something that we are very close to and that we're working very closely on as well. But it's very important that we're not just going off and doing our own thing in Ireland, that we're making sure that we're aligning with what our colleagues across Europe and across the globe are doing. So as a result of Daniel's hard work, we managed to get some funding to support open research in Ireland. And this money was spent on establishing projects. So as I mentioned, we looked at the landscape, we identified gaps, we identified actions that would help to close those gaps, and then we identified specific projects that would support the closing of those gaps. So in 2022, 6 priority actions were funded, and then in 2023, we had 5 additional priority actions funded, and then also 8 open research stimulus projects. So the priority actions are projects which directly address those actions in the action plan. And then the strand 2 projects at the open research stimulus were it was a more open call for projects which would support the National Action Plan in various different ways. Most of those projects looked at the enabling the research culture for open research rather than fair data specifically, but I'll talk you through some of those. So we had a pot of 1.725 million. When Ingrid was talking about the 10 million for the Fair Impact project, I was kind of thinking, oh God, what could we do with that? But look, we had what we had, and we've worked really hard to make the most of the funding that we've had available. So as I said, there were 13 priority action projects funded. I'm going to focus in on the projects that directly looked at open research. So the first is the Irish Data Stewardship Network. This is being led by Dr. Aoife Coffey out of University College Cork. And I'm a project partner on that project, so I am going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. We also had the IRL DAT project, which is putting together a pilot for a shared storage service nationally. So we have a lot of complications when researchers in Ireland try to share data with collaborators in other institutions. Some people are in a Microsoft environment, some people are in a Google environment. It doesn't always work when you're trying to share data across those different places. So this was to look at a pilot for what we could do at a national level to support this. So the pilot was a success, and Roberto Sabatino, who's my colleague in HEANet, was leading that project. And he is currently looking at developing the strategy for the full service, to implement a full service across Ireland. So all of these projects were 2 years long each. So the first tranche of projects are coming to the end at the end of this year. We also have iFrame, which is being led by Armin Straub out of the University of Limerick. So this is to look at a national research data management framework. So you might recognize that these align very much with those actions on a couple of slides ago. The one that we haven't done is mapping the national infrastructures. And we're going to be meeting on the 25th of October as a forum to discuss how we might best achieve that mapping of infrastructures across the landscape. The two last projects on this slide came out of the Open Research Stimulus project. So they had a more open call. They weren't prescribed as to what the achievements should be. And I think it's really interesting that they took two very different approaches. So the first is managing open source software in Irish universities. And again, that's being led out of the University of Limerick. And then the second one is sharing arts practice fairly. So they're looking at developing best practice guidance and training for arts and humanities researchers. And again, that's coming out of the University of Limerick. So they're about a year each into their projects. So perhaps you'll hear me talking in another year or two about the outlooks of those projects and how they've finished up. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about Sunry. This is the North funded project that I had the most input into and the most contact with. So this was a 2-year project. We received €160,000 to develop an Irish data steward network. And so we started in November 2022. We're due to finish up at the end of this year. Sunry is the Irish word for data. And so that's why we came up with the name for the network. I was convinced that there was an office somewhere in one of the universities that just generated these acronyms for you. But I couldn't find the office and I couldn't come up with a good acronym. So in the end, we decided to kind of lean into our Irishness. And so we are Sunry, the Irish Data Stewardship Network. So we have project partners in University College Cork, in University College Dublin. We have a number of new technological universities in Ireland, which are mergings of the IoTs, the Institutes of Technology. We have partners from those, and HCANet is also a partner on the project. So the way we went about this was we figured we needed to, first of all, socialize the idea of data stewardship. So we did a series of roadshows across higher education institutions. So this was kind of to explain to those who are working or have data stewardship as element of their job, but maybe don't recognize themselves as such, to kind of introduce the term, introduce the concept to them, and to kind of help them see themselves in that role. We also carried out 20 different interviews, and so this was really to look at the key opportunities and challenges in developing data stewardship skills across the country. So this is making sure that the work that we're doing, the network that we're building is evidence-based, that we're really building a network based on the needs of the community. We held a national conference just in June gone by, which was really, really successful. We had a really fun 2 days in Cork, discussing all things data stewardship and looking specifically at the challenges and opportunities around developing a kind of socializing really is the first step, making sure that people are aware of what data stewards are and the need for them and how they can support research within Ireland. We've been involved in a Digital Repository of Ireland legacy data project, and we're supporting a number of data champions, and I'm going to be talking about that with Deb later on this afternoon. We have a unique visual identity and logo. That was really fun to put that together. We kind of figured this was our only opportunity to actually put some money behind developing some really nice branding. And I have to say, I'm really proud of it. That little yellow squiggle is called a fada, and it means that I goes from an I to an E in Irish. So I think, again, it's really just bringing home that this network is for Ireland. But then we obviously have the English translation as well, so that it's recognizable across Europe. We set up a website and social media. We did have Twitter for a while, but we made the decision over the summer to stop using Twitter. because it's not such a fun place to be anymore. But if you're on LinkedIn, I would definitely encourage you to pop over and have a look at the work that we're doing. And then in terms of what's going to be the future of Sunry. So as I mentioned, this was a 2-year project. We're coming to the end of the project at the end of this year. So we are moving from a project to a fully sustainable network. In that way, we are setting up a steering group across Ireland, full of experts. And then we're also setting up a committee who will kind of do the day-to-day work of running the network and supporting the data stewards. So I'm going to be on that committee, at least for the next little while. But we're hoping that we've had so much community engagement over the last 2 years, which has in some ways been a really, really nice surprise. So we're hoping to engage that community a lot more and get them all involved in supporting the network. We also need to think about financial sustainability of the network. And so to that end, we just kicked off a task and finish group. We decided to focus on task and finish groups rather than working groups because we recognize that not everybody will be able to give a big chunk of their time to supporting the network on a working group. So by using a task and finish group, members of the network can see a task that they think is very much aligned with the work that they're doing in their own institutions. For a short amount of time, they can dedicate some of their time to the task. And once that's finished, they can either go back to their daily life or they can continue on with the next project that we identify that needs to be done. So we kicked off on Tuesday of this week, our first task and finish group, which is to develop a micro-credential program in data stewardship. This will be the first national program of data stewardship training. And really, we're looking at 3 different kind of bonuses to come out of this. So one, it will be a paid for course. So researchers will have to pay to take the course. And we're hoping that that will provide some elements of financial sustainability for the network, that whatever additional money we make from providing the micro-credential, we can then reinvest back into the community and into conferences, ideally making the conferences free, being able to support people with travel and any additional training they might need. One of the other remits of Sunry was to look at the professionalisation of data stewardship in Ireland. And by providing a piece of paper or an accredited training course that says, I know what I'm talking about, we hope that we will start that process of professionalising data stewardship in Ireland. And then we very much recognise that there's a training gap nationally. There's lots of training available across Europe, and we are going to be using the Skills for EOS curriculum as our base point, as our starting point, because we obviously don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's been so much amazing work done, but we will adapt that to our kind of our national environment. So that this will hopefully provide financial sustainability, help develop professionalisation of data stewards in Ireland, and also address that training gap. We had a really heated discussion on Tuesday about who the audience for this should be. But my personal opinion is that we would really be looking at anybody who is stewarding data, whether they're stewarding their own data as part of a research project, or whether they have that as a designated part of their role within the project. We're also talking to the funders. In Ireland, we have 2 main funders. We have the Health Research Board, and we also have the newly instituted Research Ireland, Taoiseach Éireann. So that is an amalgamation of 2 other research funders. So we had representatives from both of those there at our kickoff meeting. And ideally what we would like to get to is a point where they are recognising this as a line in training budgets, that they're saying, yes, absolutely, we can cost this into your grant. So that somebody who has data stewardship as part of their role, or saying if you are a project over a certain amount of money, you must have an element of data stewardship, and here is the training that you can look to use. So that's kind of the next steps for Sunry, moving to a steering group, a committee, and these task and finish groups. So I wanted just to come back to the why again. So why am I involved with all of these working groups and task forces and advisory groups? So North has done amazing work in Ireland in terms of getting the funding, having the projects to address the action plan. But I personally think that one of the greatest achievements of North was actually bringing the community together to have this national conversation. At the time, I was working in University College Dublin in the library. I felt like I was the only person trying to make the changes and not really getting anywhere. Whereas now I know that I'm part of a community of people. We have a shared vision, we have shared values, and slowly, very slowly, but slowly, we are beginning to make the research culture in Ireland a little bit more open and hopefully a lot more fair. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. I have a little present for you, something sweet. But there might also be questions from the audience. We have a mic here. Does anybody have questions for Jenny? I have one to start with. You're doing a lot of projects also for data stewards, of course, very important. But at the end, the researcher also has to do a lot.
Yes.
What is the incentive for the researcher to work with FAIRification?
So I think we're seeing kind of the same trend as we see across Europe, where the funders are requiring an element of having a data management plan as part of the project. And I think that is kind of the first step. We are working on recognition and rewards. A lot of our institutions have signed up for DORA and COARA. I'm slightly skeptical as to how enthusiastic they are about these things. And in some cases, I hesitate to say this, I know it's being recorded, but you know, there's a lot of lip service that at the kind of senior management level that's paid to these things. But I think slowly we will see that change. And certainly having the funders on board and saying you have to have data stewardship as an element of your project. Our main funder has moved to narrative CVs, for example. So recognizing the not just the publications, but all of the research outputs of the researchers. So slowly we'll get there. But yeah, we're at the beginning of our journey, I would say.
There's a question.
Thank you for your talk. So I have a question about, you said that you were going to do the mapping of the national infrastructures. And can you tell us a little bit about how you're going to approach this? I think we're also want to do currently the same in the Netherlands. We are gearing up to prepare ourselves for our position in the EOS, like an EOS node, and what do we have in the Netherlands? So do you have anything to share about your approach that you're thinking about?
Sure. So initially, in 2023, it was one of the priority action projects and nobody applied to do it. HEANet was approached to see if we would take on the project. We felt we didn't have capacity. That was before I joined. So we're having a big North meeting on the 25th of this month. And that's one of the workshops that we have, is to see how we can approach this. What is going to be the best way to do it. We're also looking at within HEANet at data spaces, at potentially having an Irish EOSC node. So I think we're getting to a point where all of those conversations and some of that work is aligning as well. So I'll have a better answer for you after the 25th of October. So watch this space.
No, thanks for sharing. And I think there's also talk about the GOROC model, or I don't know if you know about that. And everything, it's also been come up in the research infrastructures like Elixir, but also in EOS. And this could be a model to use. But yeah, thank you for sharing.
Well, that's a really good point. Yeah, I'll bring that to the meeting.
Last question, because I was told I had to stick to the time. Please.
Thank you, Jenny. That was really, really good. I think it seems like you're going to base your credential on the EOS curriculum. Is it the intention that eventually that outside of Ireland could also to
Yes. So at the moment, We are looking at the micro-credential infrastructure which is available within Ireland, and that is being run out of University College Cork, where our PI is based. So that's why we have picked that particular platform to do it. But we would like to see this being taken up. We're looking at being 5 ECTS credit module. So for PhD students who are interested in taking it, most PhD students in Ireland have to do, I think it's 15 credits as part of the structured part of their PhD program. So we would like to see it being part of that, but also recognizing that there will be researchers and support staff who aren't actually interested in the credit part, but the fact that it's accredited to University College Cork. But yes, we would like to see that being rolled out across Europe as well.
I think then you're staying here today, right?
I am,
So
yeah, I'll be around.
More questions, please do after. Thank you once again, also for the little trip to Ireland you could see in the background. I really enjoyed that.
You'll all have to come and visit.
It's on the slide already. Now it's time for a little break and then to start with the workshops. Yes, the rooms, please see at this, but also at the doors I told you before in which room the workshops are. And if you go to the workshop, in the workshop is given where the next so, and there are people helping you to find the rooms. So please enjoy a little break, and I'll see you back here at 4 o'clock, because then it's time for the data prize. Yay! I love
One of my favorite moments was the time I walked in, dumped a bunch of stuff on my desk. Started like 5 minutes, just walked out before I you were so busy. And then as you were walking out, it said, let's come to mind.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a great afternoon, interesting breakout sessions. A special welcome to the people in the front row, because these are the people that are giving a presentation, because their data is selected for the data prize. The Dutch Data Prize is organized by RDNL, Research Data Netherlands, which is a national coalition of data service providers and expertise networks. You see them there, VU Research Data, DANS, SURF, and HealthRI. And it's their task or their goal to promote fair data in the Netherlands. And one of the very important things they do is they organize trainings for data stewards, and especially the essentials for data support are very popular. And they're also open for foreign people, so also people from abroad can come. And of course, they're also organizing the data prize. That's why we're here. The people presenting will be presented by Claudia, but now I want to introduce also the jury, because the jury had a lot of work. There were 52 people sending in their data, and we have jury members from different domains. First, the life sciences and health domain, that is Katie Wolscroft, and she's in the room. I didn't see her yet, but maybe she can stand up, please. Thank you. And from the Also, Ronald Cornet, he's a professor of medical informatics at Amsterdam University Medical Center. He's not present, but here's his picture. And I forgot to tell what Katie is doing in normal life. She's a life science, she's from the life science semantics group at the University of Leiden. From the domain natural sciences and engineering, we have in the room Serkan Yurgin. He's the lead of the Center of Expertise in Big Geodata at the University of Twente. Serkan, where are you? I saw him. He's here today. And the second one is Bursu Koopmans-Bekel. She's the product owner of the Center of Information Technology of the University of Groningen. That's the picture. The last category is the social sciences and humanities. There is Alec Badenoch. He should be in the room. Please stand up. Alec is a professor of transnational media at the VU Amsterdam and also an assistant professor media and cultural studies at the University of Utrecht. And then there's Daniel Oberski. He's the professor of social and behavioral sciences at the University of Utrecht. Last but not least, the chair, of course, of the jury. That's Claudia van Oppen. Please stand up. Claudia is the director of the Maastricht University Library, and before that, she was the manager of the Research Support and Development Unit. And in that role, and also now, she's an ambassador for open science and data. Claudia, I give the mic to you, and I will be the one keeping the people to the time. They have only 1.5 minutes. Now warn them.
Thank you very much, Annette. Welcome to everybody in this room, but not to forget all the people who are attending this session via the live stream. Yeah. Okay. As the chair of the jury, it's really my pleasure to introduce to you the nominees for the Dutch Data Prize. And this prize has been awarded since 2010. And today we have the pleasure to award the prize of 2024, not as it says on the picture 2022. So it's not outdated, this prize. As you already heard, we have 52 eligible submissions, and the jury had a tough task and selected 9 nominees. Since we have 3 categories in which those nominees were divided, and those categories are, as you can see on the awards as well, natural and engineering sciences, life sciences and health, and social sciences and humanities. And per category, we have a winner. And this winner receives a check of 3,500 euros, which can be spent on making the research even more fair or making other data sets fair. So it should be a research-related purpose. And this prize also gives, of course, valuable recognition to the researchers, to the contribution that they give in the field of research that they're active in. And we think that is very important, not only based on making data fair, but also since it encompasses other fields of open science, because that was one of the general observations of the jury. Let's see what moves on. Yeah, there it goes. Yeah. So there were a couple of criteria that the jury really focused upon. And that is, of course, that the data should be fair, that the data are openly available if possible, that you can really reuse it, that it brings research opportunities that are really of importance, and also that the data are in digital repositories that are certified. The jury came across, and I will announce that first before I go into the finalists, saw a lot of, saw some general observations. And what did we see? We saw some very diverse data sets. diverse regarding the type of output, type of data. Some data sets were more or less a repository on their own, while others were relatively small data sets. Moreover, what we identified is that if you look at a couple of years ago, when we were talking about fair data, then most people made it possible to make the data findable and accessible. But nowadays, we see already that people more and more make the data also interoperable and reusable. And of course, that is the full acronym that FAIR stands for. But nevertheless, it's a great observation to see that we are already in this phase. Also, we saw that some data sets even not only were about having fair data, but also already having fair software in them. So we see already, and that's why I refer to this open science, that already some of the sub-goals of open science, fair data, fair software already encompass in these data sets. So an important conclusion of the jury was, thank you. Let me do it like this. An important conclusion of the jury was that for the future, also the data prize should evolve. We should define other research categories and clusters, as data is often interdisciplinary in nature and the result of team science. I will wait for a bit and maybe enjoy the sound. And so I don't think it was one, is it? Yeah, it is. And besides that, we saw that we could be able to define other research categories and clusters, and these three that we just saw before. We as a jury also observed that actually we should make a distinction between maybe an early career or a senior research data award in the future. And we got another idea, and that is that maybe next time we also develop a hackathon to really work on the data sets that are nominees and to test to which extent the data is truly interoperable and reusable. So that is something for the upcoming years. And this was just to build up some excitement about what is going to happen today with the prize. So the finalists of 2024 are in the category of natural and engineering sciences, the impact-aware robotics database, the FAIR model catalog for ontology-driven conceptual modeling research, and high-resolution SPH simulations of a 2D dam break flow against a vertical. I would like to ask the nominees who will give the pitches in a sec up front, but before we do that, I will announce the other categories as well, but I think these people already deserve a short applause. Then, in the social sciences and humanities, the Corpus Gesproken Nederlands is one of the nominees, the Generations and Gender Survey, and the European Olfactory Knowledge Graph. In the life sciences and health, we have the Xenocanto database, the Brassicee Tree of Life, my apologies if I didn't pronounce it correctly, and the minimum information about a biosynthetic gene cluster. Then we will move on to the top three for the natural engineering and sciences. And I would like to ask the nominees to come up front, and we'll start with the pitch of the first research data set. Oh, sorry, yeah, that's right. Okay. But first, I would like to give the floor to the impact-aware robotics database, which will be pitched by Maarten Jongeneel and Alessandro Sacco. And I think, Alessandro, you will do the pitch.
Yes.
Maarten, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry that I mixed up.
That's the wrong way around.
Yeah, that's the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you. So the database, excuse me. The database that we created started off with the type of research that we're conducting, which is about impact-aware robotics. Let's see if this video must work. Yes. And in impact-aware robotics, what we try to do is exploit robots to make physical impacts with the objects and the environments that surround them to speed up certain tasks. And in the videos you can see here, these tasks are related to logistics. So we try to speed up the grabbing and tossing of parcels. But yeah, you can imagine that we had a lot of different setups with different robots, objects, and sensors, and it quickly became a mess with the amount of data that we had. So we had to come up with a way to structurally collect and store this data in a way that we can reuse it. So that's how we ended up with the impact-aware robotics database. On the right, you can also see a screenshot of the website that we created connected to it. And essentially, this is a platform where people can share their data and also search for different data sets related to a taxonomy that we created specific to this research field. So yeah, if you would like to know more, please reach out to Alessandro or to me, visit our website or contact me after this presentations. So thank you.
That was very good time management, congratulations. And since your data set is nominated, you already get this certificate and some energy for the next phase. Thank you. Then I will invite the next picture on the stage. And this will be a presentation about the FAIR model catalog for ontology-driven conceptual modeling research. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So these are the people that contributed to this work, have been working on that for the last 2 years. This catalog aims, this data set for us, the data is, are the models, the conceptual models, and the data set, our work is a curated, structured, collaborative, open source catalog for conceptual models. And these are models that capture realities and concepts from specific domains or specific aspects of domains. So what this catalog is used for, different stakeholders, they have different uses for the catalog. Newcomers can use the catalog to learn or have insights on how to model things, learn how to model, how to create conceptual models. Language researchers can do that to have insights on how modeling languages are used. Domain experts for reusing parts of whatever has been already modeled in their other types of models, etc. And then for the fairness part, we try to cover all aspects of fairness. So we use this goal plan to plan the FAIRification that we are going to do in our catalog. Then you follow the FAIRification process. We use the FedRAP point to expose the metadata, use GitHub to host the models and all the accessory artifacts, and use the W3ID for the identifiers. Thank
you. And some chocolates, thank you. And then you also may wait over there.
Yep.
And then the third nominee in this category is the high-resolution SPH simulation of 2D dam break for flow against. And it's Giordano who will present.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hi, let's go. Okay, so here, what you see here, there are moments in a block of water that is falling and sliding on the floor, hitting a wall, bouncing back, splashing.
This is computed, the colors are artifacts, and it took 45 days to produce 200 of these images. And this is because each of these drawings is made of 82 million particles and contains 3.5 gigabytes of worth of data. And we wanted to make this, to share this in a fair way. How to do that? Well, not only that one, but also like a calculation, they're using fewer particles. So the size of the challenge was having 1,650 files and just about 730 gigabytes. So this is kind of the architecture to store all this data in a deposit at 4TU research data in a way that presented the information logic behind it. So there is no need to parse these in every little detail, but what was crucial at 4TU was the availability of collections. So we could organize 4 backend datasets in which we put all the raw data, and then a front-end dataset where the user can read and view all the information that you need to understand whether you like these datasets or not. So what happened to this dataset? This is a very nice history of the downloads in time. This is, I think, it itself.
That was more or less a cliffhanger, huh? You showed the, that was what you showed the increase. For you, a certificate. And also some chocolates. There you go. And you may also wait over there. Well, then the moment of truth. The winner. In the category National Science and Engineering, the jury was especially impressed by the clear description of the data and the fact that the research team have put something valuable on top, the web interface to access the data. The interface enables the user to see the content and to use it easily by means of a DOI, etc. The database is composed of 26 datasets that are deposited in 4TU. Additionally, the data owners maintain an open platform that includes detailed descriptions of each dataset, experimental environments, and extensive supporting materials such as images, documentation, robotics, related projects, and publication. The platform also offers search functionality based on dataset properties, and key attributes such as descriptions, authors, institutions, and keywords are clearly visible. Links to each dataset in 4TU are integrated throughout different sections of the database, making it easy to access the datasets. Notably, there is a dedication section for data conversion. Overall, the effort to publish the data in line with the FAIR principles in 4TU and to maintain the open database ensures the reusability, accessibility, reproducibility, and interoperability of high quality data. Besides being of relevance to the robotics community, the initiative can be an inspiration to other research fields by showing how properly storing and sharing experimental data can stimulate research. So, guess to you all, who is the winner? The winner is Impact Aware Robotics Database.
It's my pleasure to provide you congratulations and the award, together with, of course, the check.
Thank you. Finance are getting this.
Yeah, shall I have it? And, of course, the numbers. You have a small bag.
Yes, thank you very much.
You can sit down again.
Okay, so we continue with the top 3 in the social sciences and humanities. And also there, I asked the nominees to come up front so that they can all give their pitch. And we will start there. Are the nominees coming? Yeah. Thank you. We will start there with the corpus gesproken Nederlands. And that pitch will be provided by Louise Timmers.
Thank you. Ja, de corpus gesproken Nederlands is a corpus of spoken Dutch. And the relevance I will try to show in the following 85 seconds. It is one of the earliest, larger corpus for spoken Dutch. It contains almost 1,000 hours of speech. It's a balance between Flemish and Dutch. It contains, it spans a period of about 20 years ago. And it contains speech from different registers, that means meetings, interactions, personal interactions, formal, informal, and so on. The impact is large. There is a large array of papers and dissertations based on it. And it's still actively used for fine-tuning artificial intelligence for speech recognition. So as you know, data are so important today, and we are actively using CGN for Dutch speech recognition. The data is the gold mine, it's part of the gold mine. And it has proved to be a structure, a sort of template structure for European projects in the about 15 years, 10 years ago. That's created the program. The data are easily available via these links written here, and there is a huge documentation about CGN. Thank you.
Then we will continue with the generations and gender survey. And that will be presented by Olga.
So the Generations and Gender program is a research infrastructure on life course and family dynamics. And our data collection consists of data, of survey data that was collected in the last 30 years in over 30 countries and of more than 300,000 individuals. We disseminate the data through the GGP data portal to the research community, where researchers can easily access the data through a simple registration process, and which access criteria applies to which data set is described in the data portal. And we document the data using using the DI lifecycle, and we use Collectica to store and process the metadata so that the users of the data can easily find the information that they need about the data. And last year we participated in CESTA's Fairness Assessment Challenge, and this year we prepared a fairness implementation profile with the support of Odyssey, and this helped us a lot to understand what else it is that we might want to do to improve the fairness of the data. Thank you.
Well, good timekeeping, I have to say. We will move on to the next page, which will be the European Olfactory Knowledge Graph. And I will invite the pitchers to stage, which is Rafael and Marike.
No, it's Inge and Nardo. Before we start with the 90 seconds, you're all getting a blotter, so you can smell. We already hear before we start. And the smell is on the small side of the blotter, so don't stick it in your nose, but slowly move the blotter in between under your nose. You can smell. You are smelling myrrh, wierook, and we call myrrh a heritage scent. Why? Because it has such a long history of daily use and practices and meaning making in European history. in religious rituals, in medicine, and much more. And you can find out all about myrrh and its usage in the European Olfactory Knowledge Graph and the Smell Explorer.
Okay.
And
we're going to have to do this really quick. So the data part of the EOKJ, let's speak about that first. So what we did is we analyzed a large collection of historical European texts and paintings. We created models to recognize smell references in texts and used other models to recognize smell objects in paintings. We linked back to the original data sources in European museums and used automatic approaches to cover the provenance metadata. And very important, we also disambiguated, because it's very important if you say tobacco, are you talking about the object, the odorant, or the smell of tobacco? And we did this through the use of authority files. And this also helped us to distinguish between tabak in German or Dutch and tobacco in English, for example. So we're working at the concept level. And here quickly, the knowledge graph itself, the components of the knowledge graph, of course, all got URIs on linked data principles. They're organized in what we call the Europa ontology and using OWL and extensions to Cydoc CRM. And most important, they're reusable in many different ways. Well, we have what we call the Jupyter notebooks and the Europa Smell Explorer.
Okay, well now, it's my pleasure again to announce to you the winner. And the jury indicated that this data set responds to new concerns, has a very good documented structure and a human-oriented rendering. It is a cross-national panel survey on life course and family dynamics of individuals aged 18 to 79 years, with its longitudinal design, including both retrospective and prospective information. The dataset tracks the experiences and changes that individuals go through in their personal lives. This international data is of high quality, very good documented on a detailed level. An online search interface and online codebooks make the information about the data easily accessible. The dataset is released to the whole research community immediately after data collection, without any embargo period. The survey is particularly interesting for family sociologists and family demographers. However, it is so broad that the background of users is more diverse than that, and includes economists and psychologists and sociologists and demographers interested in other topics than family. So, guess who's the winner of the data prize?
The award for you.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, your certificate. Thanks. And the flowers. Congratulations.
We will continue with the third and last final category, life sciences and health. So I would like to ask the nominees as well to come to the front, and so that we can give their pitches. And here we will start with the pitch of Xeno Canto, sharing wildlife sounds from around the world. And Bob, you will give the pitch.
Thanks, Claudia. It's a pleasure. Xeno Canto has been around for nearly 20 years. It started as a pet project in which we try to share sounds of wildlife, especially birds. That's how we started. And back in 20 2008, we had introduced Creative Commons licenses to make everything public, even with good licenses, and we've gone global already nearly 15 years ago. We've been contributing to sound recognition initiatives since 2014, and these days also all the data is shared on GBIF, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. Now it's not only birds, but it's also grasshoppers, bats, and frogs, and soon it will also be mammals and all the other sound producing groups will be there. We have close to 1 million recordings now from 10,000 different people from all over the world, and another 30 or 40,000 people that are registered, and over now around 12,000 species. The impact of all of this, as you can see, it's kind of the coverage is pretty global, is enormous, much to my own surprise of when I started. So there are nearly 5,000 papers that have been written with this data, and it seems to be better cited than all of the other sound archives combined. We heard from a Spanish survey that tried to figure this out. So as someone who developed something, said something.
We continue now with the next pitch. Now you should help me how to pronounce it.
It's FAIRification. I'll pronounce it a couple of times more. Thank you. Okay. So did you know that the mustard family is not just a kitchen staple, but in fact also a cornerstone of plant science? The FAIRification family, the mustard family or cabbage family, contains about 4,000 species globally, including vital crops like cabbage and rapeseed. And it's studied by thousands of researchers worldwide because it also includes the model organism in plant biology, Arabidopsis thaliana. However, actually very little is known about the evolution of this family, and the data that are there are scattered. To this end, we created a website, an application called the FAIRification Tree of Life that allows researchers and everyone interested for free to explore cabbage and mustard evolution, to connect the dots, and to get all the information on these species through through combining a lot of metadata. We adhere to the FAIR principles, making the data easily findable through rich metadata, making it accessible through trusted databases, interoperable, using only standardized formats, and we encourage users to also further reuse the data. So finally, with this tool, we aim to assist and also to catalyze research on FAIRification evolution and specifically the improvement of crops. Thank you.
Oscar?
Yeah.
And still something else. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
FAIRification, don't forget.
FAIRification. Now I know how to pronounce. Thank you. Then we'll go to our final pitch, which will be minimum information about a biosynthetic gene cluster, and that will be presented by Maurice. Mitja. Okay.
Thank you. So everyone in this room has benefited already from antibiotics, either as medicines or, for example, as food preservatives. We also call them antimicrobials. However, research is hindered by, even though we have more than 100 years of research, it is really hindered by the fact that the data and the knowledge is not really accessible. Either it's locked behind paywalls or then in papers that are not really machine readable. And now we have 2024, we want to do AI on it, right? But we don't have the data to do that. So 10 years ago, Marnix Medema, my PI, started with the mimic data set to make the minimum information about the biosynthetic gene cluster. Many antibiotics are stored in such biosynthetic gene clusters. And he wanted to make his knowledge fairly accessible, right? Findable, accessible, interoperable, and also reusable. And since then, this data set has been used millions of times already. We know for sure about 2 million jobs that were run on this data set. And in 2024, I organized the version number 4 of MyBig, where we recruited over 300 scientists from all around the world in contributing additional 4,000 person hours into getting and curating data sets. And this is basically now an ecosystem that data is submitted and reused. Thank you very much.
And the winner in this category is the jury already indicated when they saw all these 3 nominees that it was actually all these 3 were impressive, or in other words to say big data sets. So with a lot of collaboration aspects in there. And the winner provided a user-friendly web interface, an extensive amount of publication which refer to this data set, and this specific data platform is integrated and linked to other international data infrastructures. It is a citizen science open animal sound base holding over 875,000 records worldwide recorded. And I can of course already announce the name because it is Xeno Cantu. But I would still like to give some more information about the observations of the jury. They were impressed that all data records are accessible through this easy-to-use interface with a rich set of searching options. Each recording can be listened and can be visualized as a sonogram. All records are published with an open access license, and detailed metadata is also provided for each record. The sounds of some threatened species is restricted, so they made that distinctions as well. And the records are accessible via an API, which further facilitates data sharing, reuse, and interoperability. And the long-term preservation of the data is guaranteed by the collaboration agreement with Naturalis. The data provided by Xenocanto is widely used on diverse websites, museums, field guides, which were also some of them best known widely used via AI algorithms for animal sound. And the jury was really impressed by the diverse means of how this data set is already been used and reused. But as you already indicated, you're working already a long time on this. So that is why also the jury made this observation like, this is an example of a senior fair data set. Congratulations.
Dankjewel.
Alsjeblieft. Ja, ja. En dat doen we.
Dankjewel.
Nou, moet ik even alle muntjes niet vergeten.
Sorry. Almost time for the drinks. First, also congratulations from my side for all the winners, of course. I have 2 announcements and 2 thank yous to make. The first announcement is that in 2 years there will be again a Fair Impact National Roadshow, so be there. And I hope it will again be combined with the Data Prize. It will definitely be the Data Prize. I think this combination is very nice. These are my 2 announcements. The thank you are for the jury. Maybe the jury's people present can come up front because there is a little present for them. Serkan is there. When I announced you before, you were missing, but please come. Come, I can make. No, you can't.
Ja, maar.
Thanks for the hard work from the jury, but there are also some other people that did a lot of hard work, and I was not allowed to mention names, but these are the people done. I think also the days before today, they had a lot of organization to do, and today was perfect, I would say. So a big applause for the people who have done. Ready, please?
No, I'm going to take the microphone because I think that the last thank you is for our perfect moderator. And the nice thing is, after having seen all of these bags with goodies passing by on you, the final one is